I've got 8 random questions here. You
Ooh.
get 3 rolls, and whatever you roll, that's where we start.
Okay.
This
How do you do?
in here.
Really?
Yes.
Does it have like a dung 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 dung?
I wish it was that elaborate.
it just,
no,
like,
it just
straight down?
shoots out into the grass. It's meant to look like Jurassic Park.
That's great.
So, want to do the honors?
Sure.
All right. I love this question. This is scene
Oh,
swap.
good.
If you had the opportunity to swap roles with anybody in the Pitt ensemble just to play one specific scene of theirs, who and what would you choose?
I think I would probably say Santos when she's confronting the potential child molester. What a monologue, what a scene that is. I read it like, oh, this is like so juicy actor. Yum.
It's so good.
Yeah.
I also love the fact that you pick Santos because, like, your vibes are so incredibly opposite. I would just love to see the two of you swap and see how the characters change with
usually
those
play
energies.
a Santos-like character, so that this Mel has been a completely new thing for me.
Ooh, we are going to dig into that. I got many questions about finding her. First, 2 more rolls. So second roll now.
All
All right, let's see what we got. Number 7. Here's a meteor one. This is high-low. I want an audition high you've experienced, and then also not necessarily an audition low, but just one where you learned something and you were able to apply it to future auditions.
Ooh. I think high would be, you kind of get like so much energy out of like live auditions. Of course, the tapes don't provide that. But probably whenever you get to play off someone that you know, it's like the actors in the room too, because it just elevates the experience. And even if you don't, it doesn't matter if you get it or not, just being able to come in and do your best and have some acting fun.
Is there any particular actor you've gotten to act opposite in the audition space that just like really energized
I
you?
think a lot of them have, actually there's one casting director I adore.
I love hearing about casting directors.
Wendy O'Brien, she's just the best, and she's improv. And so every single time I audition for her, there's just the section after the scene where it's who breaks first. And we just keep going and going and going. And it's just so much, it's such a blast, because it's just playing improv for a while. And she's the nicest person ever, too.
Good qualities to have in a
Oh, I
casting
know.
director.
She's the best. She's so easy to be around, and she's so funny.
I feel like having someone easy to be around in charge of such a high-pressure space, it's invaluable.
Yeah, and the thing, I worked in a casting office. I interned for Laura Kennedy when she was the head of Warner Brothers Casting. And I think there's a stigma about casting directors, this idea that they just want to cast whoever they want to cast. They don't care about... But the truth is, casting directors are waiting and hoping to find someone. And it's so awful hearing people like, well, they don't really care. And it's like, oh, they really care. It's all about the discovery for them.
Oh, and now it's about time they're getting the recognition they deserve at the Academy Awards.
Damn time.
Oh,
Boy.
I'm so happy. So
Me too.
happy. So that was the first half. Now I need the back half, the low that you learned something from.
I think the low is probably when you're first starting and you're not exactly sure what to say. And I remember at one point, they're like, are you legal 18? And I went, in my head, I was like, I don't really get what that is. I'm above 18. So I was like, yes, I'm above legal 18. And they're like, oh, don't say your age or anything. And I started to say my age, and they were like, legal 18 meaning emancipated minors. And I was like, oh, yeah, did not get that. So
I never would have put two and two together.
Legal 18, I'm like, what does legal 18 mean? As opposed to illegal 18. Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's a fun fact. I learned something new now during this conversation. That's great.
But it was just like a fumbly, awkward thing at the end of the audition.
I understand that. All right, third and final roll in the tower. Number 8. Oh, I love this one. This is everyday things. Can you tell me a seemingly small, like everyday thing that human beings do that is the most difficult to replicate on set as an actor? Something like fake sneezing, fake waking up.
I think it's knowing what to do with your hands. It's honestly, a lot of times it's like, why am I up here? I don't know why I'm up here. And just kind of like realizing that no one worries about that, unless you're in social situations and you're just kind of like, I don't know what to do with these things. But I think, there are times and scenes where I'm like, why is this up here now? I don't really understand why that's there, and just kind of figuring that out.
I can relate all too well. I love doing an interview at a table, but whenever
you don't
I have
know
to
what
stand, this has become like a little bit of a crutch. Like usually I'm
sure.
really good at writing all the questions and then not like looking at them the entire time, but I like holding a thing in my hands because it stops me from doing weird things.
Yeah, exactly. And then, like, if there's a podium, it's like, do I grab it? Do I go like this? And, like,
grab
not
that
really
podium.
knowing.
You see me at a podium, I'm holding on for dear
the whole
life.
podium is just shaking.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the studio for a brand new edition of Collider Ladies Night. I say this all the time, but I swear I'm not lying, and I'm especially excited to have Taylor Dearden in the studio for the Pitt. Huge congratulations. It is so exciting seeing this show take off, especially when all that praise is so well deserved.
Thank you so much.
What is the movie you saw, the performance you saw, personal experience you had, whatever it may be, that first made you say to yourself, I absolutely have to be an actor?
Oh, yeah, that's easy for me. I saw Laurie Metcalf do All My Sons at the Geffen Playhouse. I can't remember how old I was. I was young. I was probably like maybe 13 or 14. And I remember everyone's leaving, and I just stayed in my seat, like looking at the empty stage. And at one point, my parents are both like, went out the door and then had to come back. They're like, we thought you were behind us. What's happening? And I was just like, completely, I couldn't snap out of the moment in the best way. And I thought, oh, I want to move people.
Laurie Metcalf is always a good answer to that question. Our examples of Laurie Metcalf inspiration are completely different, though, because I go Scream too. And I'm like,
really?
You go so big, and look at what you do with that role. I could watch that performance and, like, still just, like, be in awe of it. And I don't know, just so hyped by how perfectly big it is.
She's so good in everything she does. She's great in Roseanne. She's great in literally everything. And God, her stage presence is
so good. I think one of my favorite things I ever saw her do on stage was we saw Misery on Broadway, and like between that set and just like her performance in the role, but the way that she commands that rotating set was just truly like one of the most mind-blowing things I've ever seen.
What great characters for Misery too.
Perfect.
What a great character.
She was just like absolute perfection
She's
in that role, which is a
amazing.
challenging thing to say after like Kathy Bates was perfection in the role, but apparently there are multiple versions of perfection.
Yeah, and stage versus screen is totally different.
Fascinating.
And I find she has a way of being subtle, but big enough so that the entire theater can see her subtle, which is a different level of exceptional acting, I think.
That is something that my brain can't compute with acting.
It's like crazy.
Being able to like really show subtle. Also, I was talking to someone else the other day where they said, it was actually an answer to the everyday things question, where they said that one of the most difficult things to convey as an actor is lying. Like when you have to show like two things at the same time and make both believable.
Or the one that's lying to yourself, but you know the truth and you're still lying to, and it's just like, okay, how many layers is that? It's a 7-layer dip of acting.
Oh, that is something. Yeah, again, that is why I'm here and you are there. The Laurie Metcalf example might answer some of this question, but I'm curious about your choice to study at USC, and particularly to get a degree in theater. Did you choose that degree assuming you would wind up having a career on stage and not on screen?
That is still my favorite medium. It's the best. There's nothing like it. There's something about it that I really love, that every performance is unique, and it's gone after you do it. There's no like really capturing the moment. And there's no watching it back and judging yourself, and you're just completely immersed in the story and in your character, and then it like disappears. And only those who were there saw that performance. It's like, it's the most incredible thing.
I love that thought so much.
Yeah.
I lived in New York City for so long, and one of my biggest regrets is that I did not see enough Broadway, but just recently I started to go very regularly. My mom's in the other room. Give Mom and Ems a shout out. We saw Sarah Paulson in Appropriate, and I like vividly remember turning to her during intermission and being like, how cool is this that this is happening like just for all of us in this moment, and it'll never happen the same. Like they are doing all of this for us, and this is solely our version of this show.
And any other time it's going to be different, and you're not going to be able to like comprehend it because you saw your version. And it's just, it feels like a gift you can give to an audience, and it's, it's just something you can like give and leave and have it be done too. And there's something about with film and TV, like being able to see it again, especially if you're scrutinizing your own acting. That's just a little bit like, oh, I really loved when I could just be done for the night and there's nothing I can go back and try again at all.
I always love sitting here being like, why are you scrutinizing your work? And then I see what I do with my own work. Like, I'll scrutinize this, but then I'll moderate like a live Q&A. I'll be like, poof, gone. Like,
yeah,
no one
right?
sees that ever again, except for the still images where they can't hear the stupid thing I said.
Yeah, exactly.
Sticking with USC a little longer, because I love asking people about studying a craft like acting in a formal school setting and, what sticks with you, but also the fact that there's still more opportunity to learn and grow. So big two-part question about that. Can you tell me something you learned in that program that you still find yourself using to this day, but then also something that all the schooling in the world never would have prepared you for when you started working as a professional actor?
That's a good question. I think the first part would be how to be a self-sufficient actor when your director may not be hands-on. And there were a few of my acting teachers there who kind of are like, just go through the script, do your own analysis, and then kind of create scenarios, but not you can't commit to a performance. Like you can't go, this is how I'm going to do it, because the director might change it completely on you. So to be able to see as many possibilities as this scene can go into this way, have know that it can go that way, but also be completely open to whatever might move or whatever the director might do. And also everything blocking might change how the scene is delivered, where you're like, oh, this doesn't make any sense anymore. If we were sitting, it makes sense. Now we're standing and it's awkward and whatever it is. And just to be self-sufficient in your own acting so that you are malleable.
Oh, that's such a good one. So that's what the program taught you. But then what is the opposite of that? Something that all the schooling in the world never would have prepared you for when you started working professionally, whether it was on stage or set.
It's a really weird one.
I like weird ones.
There's not much. It's not very relevant. But it happened once and it was like, and that is for theater, striking means taking away. So like if strike the chair means get this chair off stage. And in film and TV, it means turning on a light. And there was one time it was like strike, and because I'm from a theater background, my first job, I kept doing everyone else's job. I'm like, yeah, I got the chair. And it was like, oh, that's not your job. And it's like, oh, sorry, right. I'm so theater still of like, yeah, I'll move it. It's easier if I move it than if you have to come over here. And everyone being like, no, you don't move it anymore. I'm like, oh, right, okay. But yeah, that one I was like bending down to get a chair and the light went off right in my eyes. And I was just like completely blinded. That whole scene is probably me. Like that.
That's funny. I knew both definitions of the word, but I had never actually compared the two, especially when an actor works in both forms.
Yeah.
So theater is still a top priority love for you. And I am curious, though, you study it in school. Do you remember the first thing you did in terms of screen acting that made you stop and go like, this is something that fills me up too, but maybe in a different way?
I think I always had I always kind of knew it would just be any acting for me. And so my whole idea was that because I unfortunately can't sing or dance, musical theater is completely out for me, though I love it and I'd love to try it, but no one would want me to. I'm waiting for when I can play Mrs. Hannigan because she doesn't have to sing well. And I'm like, oh, come on, give it to me.
That one always comes back around.
That's the one. But I think I got lost. What's up? Sorry, ADHD.
The moment that you realize screen acting also fills you up.
Yeah, I think I always knew that it would be all acting. But then my idea was to build up my credits, like trying to get, a little guest star gig on this and then something else, so that when I went to New York, they would take me more seriously. because if you're not a triple threat, you just don't get in as many rooms. And so it's kind of like, oh, you only do straight shows? Okay. And because, all the musical theater actors do absolutely everything. And so I was like, if I at least have a resume with some credit where it's not like I'm not some newbie off the street or something, that maybe that I would be seen. And it just so happened that it kind of accidentally stayed here because things just kept happening. I keep doing that.
Oh, I'll do it too.
Things kept happening that just kept me in LA. And it's also where I'm from, so it's not like, oh no, I want to get out of here. It's like, oh, that's fine.
Is one of the first things that kept you in LA Sweet Vicious?
Yep.
Okay.
That was the big one that was like, oh, that changed some plans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a biggie. It only lasted one season, and it deserved
way ahead of our time.
Deserved quite a bit more than that. I'll lean into that a little now. So that was your first opportunity to be a series regular on a show. I guess first, what would you say is the biggest learning curve you experienced in terms of like starting to understand like what that meant and what you need to give of yourself to be the lead of a series?
Oh, all of that comes from Eliza Bennett, my co-star. She is unbelievably professional and kind and just so easy and wonderful to work with. And she'd been working since she was a kid. And so she kind of took me under her wing and I just watched how to lead from her. She's an incredible number one. She's an incredible leader. And so just kind of seeing how she does it. And actually on the Pitt, I at some point started feeling like I was taking on a leadership role. And I was like, how do I know how to, there's stuff that I'm like, how do I know how to do this? I don't understand and it was like, oh, it's because Eliza taught me.
Can you give me a specific example of something you're doing because of her?
I think so. One big one she taught me was try to learn the lens lengths. So that if someone's on a 50, you know where it's hitting you so that you know how much to give, especially if it's a screaming thing. You don't have to weep terribly if it's farther away and wider. And like to know what the camera is doing, to ask where they're planning on going with the camera and all of that stuff is just, but it was stuff like that and just kept building and how to treat and involve guest actors in the routine. And she taught me all of that. And so, all of a sudden I'm finding myself making sure that everyone's taken care of and all of this. And it was just, it's her. Yeah.
Both important things, but bringing up the guest actor thing, especially when you're on a show like The Pitt, that like not to get too far into that just yet, but that's like one thing that really wows me about working on a show like that, when someone has to pop in and just like give every ounce of themselves and then to basically be playing a character in a position where like they or a loved one could be on the verge of death and you just have to like swoop in and give it all and then you're out.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things, there's so many things about The Pitt that are completely different from normal productions.
Oh, I got questions.
And so there's a lot of, you see a lot of people kind of like, what am I supposed to do? And it's like, okay, let me help you out. And just to be able to tell them what to expect and also to be open for them to talk to you for anything and just kind of be like, if you have any questions, you need anything, just let me know, because it can be so intimidating, the speed at which we move, that some people are like, oh, I shouldn't even ask for water. And I'll just make sure to be like, do you need anything? And they're like, well, it's not a big deal. It's like, no, just tell me what you need. And we have the best crew ever. And so
I bet.
It's just, everyone working for the same goal on the most ridiculously shot crazy madness show. Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna squeeze into two more questions before I do that. First, just to basically pave the way from Sweet Vicious to American Vandal and then to The Pitt. Is there anything you learned making those two shows that when The Pitt came your way helped you know to your core that this one has a story that will fill me up as an artist, but also this is an on-set environment that I'm really going to be able to excel in?
Yeah, and I did a few pilots too, and all of it just adds and helps. But I think with both Sweet Vicious and American Vandal, there's a scrappiness to both productions. Low budget, let's try and do something. And we actually, with Sweet Vicious, we shot in an old porn warehouse in Chatsworth with, for the first 2-3 weeks of production, no AC in summer in Chatsworth. And it was just we also shared our facility with a vegan mayo company. So it's like set, stacks of mayo, another set piece.
For a minute, I thought you said mail company. I'm like, what is vegan mail?
Well, if you don't know. When you lick the stamp, you don't know what you're like, I
will never unhear this now.
But it was so odd and, again, scrappy. And there's one scene where the sorority girls get breakfasted, which is, all these breakfast items get thrown on them. And afterwards, they rinsed off in a at least 20-person shower. That was the kind of thing like, that's so weird to have a shower. Oh, right. I know where I am. Yep. I remember why we have that now. And at a few points, some of the vegan mayo people came and were like inspecting crates. So we'd be doing a scene and my eye line is like a guy in a lab coat, like this. And you're just kind of like, all right. I think having distractions and not having enough money to like have all of that helps keep you on your toes. Mm-hmm. But with Sweet Vicious, I mean, Jen Caton Robinson wrote it, who's obviously a big deal.
Very big deal.
Very big deal.
Gonna be a big deal this summer too.
Yeah, just keeps getting bigger, honestly. And so the scripts were unreal, but they also had a looseness to it. And the American Vandal, obviously, is a lot of improv. Mm-hmm. And it was just a blast. Both of those were so fun. And I think part of it was also we all know we're scrappy. And so we're all putting everything of ourselves into something to make something that won't look cheap. It won't look like we were scraping anything. And there's something that's very student film, very indie production about that. Yeah.
I know it's really nice to have lots of resources, but like that kind of set vibe is one of my favorite. When you know that like the only way your thing is going to get made is if you all give it your all and you're doing it together and you're lifting each other up every single step of the way. It's my favorite vibe.
Oh, it's great. And there's so many weird things that happen that wouldn't happen on a normal soundstage. I remember we were called into set and we all had to the whole production was paused because a family of skunks was in front of the door. Stuff like that where you're like, oh, we're trying to get in, we're trying to shoot, but got a skunk block. Stuff like that.
Family of skunks take priority.
And the babies were this big. They were the cutest little things.
I would have wanted to touch one, and then I would have gotten in trouble. Oh. Yeah, I'm the kind of person that would know it's wrong, but want to like reach out and touch or feed.
Skunks are so cute.
I would want to feed it.
They're really cute too.
Before we get into the pit, I did want to ask one question about your parents, and this is inspired, or at least the structure of this question is inspired by someone else who came in and had two parents who are experienced actors themselves. Can you tell me something that you saw your parents do as actors growing up that made you say to yourself, like, I admire that and I want to do it that way too? But then also maybe one of the first things you discovered in yourself that made you think to yourself, like, my approach to the work this way is uniquely my own.
I think they would love to know that I had that, but it was all Laurie Metcalf for me. So it was like, it's what my parents do. It's what my grandparents did. And you can actually trace it all the way back. There's a draft document we found from 1812, and it says occupation theatrical man. And I want to be called that from now on, not actor, theatrical lady.
Theatrical lady.
So it was just kind of what they do. It wasn't really something I could do too. It's just kind of like, it's family business. Mm. And I think, they were both kind of like, so not the movie I did? And you're like, no, it's mainly Laurie Metcalf for sure.
Again, much respect for that. Laurie Metcalf is always the right answer.
And also, they saw the show too, and they were like, well, of course.
Oh, we get it now.
Yeah.
I'll broaden that, though, to get to the back half. Is there anything that you did along the way that, I mean, maybe not even just separate from them, but separate from, like, all the actors you encountered? Like, just something that felt, like, uniquely you about your approach to the work, something you wanted to embrace to make yourself stand out in this space?
I do a lot of improv. And I think, it's always been, just being quick has always been a strong suit of mine. And then I think I got to do some groundlings and other more structured improv. And it's just my thing. And I love it because I also try and I have no problem stopping it. And so, especially with John Wells, I find that I'll just start making bigger choices and he'll just be like, little less. And you're like, yeah, good call. Good call. I was getting pretty big. And so just to, I try and let everyone know, I'm gonna improv stuff. It's kind of just my nature. And I'll probably try stuff and you can always pull me down.
I have a feeling I'm going to come back to that point. There's a couple of specific moments I want to hit where I'm
Sure.
curious about calibrating. But first, the very beginning of the Pit. I am so curious about that audition process. Is there anything unique about what they need to see from you to make sure that you are a good fit for the character, you can handle this subject matter, but also you could handle that schedule, which just sounds wild to me?
It's a bizarre schedule. It's truly nuts. But the thing is, no one's worked like that. So they didn't really have a good way of being like, could you work in this brand new way that no one's ever done before? But the audition process was odd. I think everything for me has been odd since COVID, and everything's been mainly self-tapes. But it was doubly odd because I auditioned for it and then an extreme amount of time passed. And it was fine, that's you have to get used to it. I think some of the best advice you can get as an actor and really have to take in is that your job is the audition and then you're done. Your job is no longer, it's not about that. You show them what you think the character should be, and that's what you do. And I started trying to think of it also as a gift in a way to keep yourself, not getting down on things, is to think of yourself as the person who's going to show them how to do it right and then leave. Because it's like, well, I know you're not going to cast me, but just so you know, this is how it should be done. And just to kind of leave it in their hands of oh, I taught you exactly what it should be. And it really helps keep your ego high enough that you can keep going. But so I had that with the audition. I didn't hold on to it. I let it go. Next audition. And a lot of time passed. And I heard they're like, oh, they want to do a producer session with you. And I went, for what? Because I had all their auditions and stuff. They're like, the doctor thing? I'm like, which doctor thing? Because I think there was another one. And then when I heard, I went, wait, that was over a month ago. Because usually it's much faster than that. And then I went to the producer session, which I was like, oh, John Wells, Scott's there, Noah's there. That's fine. Cool. So the producers got it and did that. And then I actually was leaving to film a short film in Utah, which is awesome. And
what is it called?
It's called Okay Mom.
Okay. I like that.
It's such a phenomenal script.
Is it something we could see anywhere yet?
I think so. I should know this.
I'll look this up.
Look it up.
Yeah.
You can at least see the trailer, that's for sure.
Okay.
It's so well written. It's crazy well written. And it was such a fun project. And I'm walking up to, my phone with the ticket, and I get the call hey, so you got it. And again, time had passed and I went, what? What is it? And they're like, the doctor thing with the producer session? I'm like, wait, that thing? Really? Yeah, it was bizarre and wild, and then it was so much fun because then you do the scrappiest little indie where one of the producers had an old RV, and that's every one of us was piled into that. It was all night shoots, shooting into the sun was our enemy, and it was just a blast. And then I came back, then it was boot camp, then starting the Pit. Yeah.
Oh, I have questions about boot camp, too.
Yeah.
I want to walk back to what I mentioned about the schedule and what you also emphasized. For anybody out there who hasn't read too much about how this show is shot, can you kind of walk us through some things that are different from any other production out there?
Sure. I think it's also important to know how things are normally shot.
Yes.
These days, TV is normally shot in blocks of 2. So a director does 2 episodes. They're connected episodes, 201 and 202 or whatever it is. And it's so that actors and locations and anyone you have to pay gets shot out fast. So that if we're visiting, I'll use the Pit as an example of how we don't do it, but if every time you see us outside in an ambulance bay, we're at St. Joe's Hospital. And so block shooting would be, for both episodes, every time you're outside, they're shot in one day, probably a half day of just that, and then going back and shooting everything in clumps. But the Pit is in sequence.
Like totally in sequence.
Yeah, and again, with normal, you're all over the place. You might do the last scene first, do a few of the beginning scenes, then to the middle. It's all over the place. But it's all in sequence with the Pit.
Like even when I was wondering about this, even when you're filming maybe a longer sequence with one patient, do you even like jump around?
Sequence.
That's something else.
It's totally different. Usually, and the thing is, what was a huge surprise to all of us is because I think everything is so fast-paced with the Pit, we kind of jump into the reality of the situation probably a little bit more than we would if we had chairs to go to and water and we're checking our phones and stuff. And there's no phones allowed. We have no chairs. So we're on set the entire time. And when we're not on set, we're using a different set to sit. So we're all in the family room, which is like I'm sorry to tell you about your family. That's where we sit as actors before we're needed. And so it kind of gets you into the reality. There's no tripods. There's no lights with C-stands. Every lighting, all the lighting is in the ceiling. It's the hospital lights. And they just have iPads and they can just change the colors and the brightness and whatever they need. And everything is handheld. And so the pace of it kind of makes you forget often that you're actually filming something. And it gets you into it enough that you're kind of like, I'm not a doctor. Right. I forgot. For a second, I was like, I think I'm pretty sure I'm a doctor. And so whenever a trauma comes in, one of those scenes where it's, first season, not to give anything away, but I will.
Oh, we will. We're going to spoil it.
We're going to spoil it all. Like the thoracotomy scene with the nail in the heart. Mm-hmm. So it's the craziest version of emergency in an emergency department. After the first day, we all kind of were like, I don't know, my body feels weird. After the second day, and after a few days, we went, oh my God. Our adrenaline got released every single time we did the scene. And because we're not block shooting, adrenaline release next day, adrenaline release next day, adrenaline release, so that we were all a different definition of tired because it's adrenal fatigue. And so most of us lose our fight or flight while we're filming because if your adrenaline's gone, it's just kind of, I found myself, this is how I'd go home, I'd sit on the couch, forget to turn on the TV or do something. I'd just kind of stare at a wall, realize I was drooling, and then just go to bed. And I was like, it's definitely as intense as it looks as far as that goes.
I'm jumping ahead with this follow-up question, but I want to know, how does that feeling at the end of a tough shoot change when it's the earlier episodes where it's like one trauma at a time versus the tail end where it's the mass casualty event and there's just I can't even keep count of all the things that are going on?
I think because at first we also didn't know our bodies were going to do this. We went a little too ham and let it happen. And so by the fourth episode, we're all kind of like, oh, I don't really know how to be a person anymore. And we couldn't pace ourselves. This is a totally different thing going into this, luckily. And we all have our little routines now that we know we need. And because it's also an incredibly physical show, no one's coming to lift the people off the blanket. We're doing that ourselves. And it's also weird stuff. So the doctors are always, in reality, typically on the patient's right, and the nurses are on the left. And so if you're a doctor, you're always lifting and going only in one direction. Huh. The nurses step on the bed and pull forward towards them. And so if you're a doctor, you're either doing it this way or this way. And it's still film and TV, so it's take after take after take. And it's just one-sided. So you end up walking home and you're like, I'm not straight. And so just having the routine of getting massages, finding a chiropractor, or in my case, a chiropractor / kinesiologist who's just a genius and is so helpful. But it's stuff like a lot of the self-care that we didn't know we needed until it was a little too late first season. And I think we're all also, even with the traumas, we're trying to bring down our energy so that it can stay consistent for 8 months.
So you're figuring out like a good healthy routine to be able to nail all this, but what's your onset vice? I ask this as Dicey question every once in a while. Like the thing you turn to when it's a tough day and like you need, I don't know, a snack, a drink, an activity or something.
I think there comes a time where energy is lost in all of us. And I'm not usually a caffeine person. I know I need sugar and caffeine in those moments. And so I do, which Shabana thought was hilarious because I would drink Dr. Pepper. And she's like, "You're a doctor drinking Dr. Pepper." It's a way to get some caffeine and sugar at the same time. And it'll speed me through another few hours. But especially during the mass casualty, it was once a day probably.
Oh.
And I'm not a soda person at all. At all.
It's what happens on sets.
But it's just the kind of like, I can't do anything to get me going again unless it's this. Yeah.
You talking to a caffeine addict? I understand.
Yeah, well, I mean,
too much.
You can't crash on this because you got the full day.
Yeah, that's a long day and a lot of material.
I remember the first like few episodes, every time Noah was drinking, Dr. Robbie had his mug. It was real coffee. And eventually he was just kind of like, "Okay, guys, I think maybe some tea or something." Like, we would just see, "Oh, why is he getting so jittery?" And it's like, oh, yeah, that's why.
It's a fun fact. I always do wonder what is actually in mugs and cups.
I always find it strange and bad whenever someone doesn't put anything. They're like, "Do you want some water or something?" They're like, "No, I don't need anything," because I watch them. They'll like talk to someone and they're doing this. It's like, and all of that would go on the ground. You forgot.
Like a really dramatic. Yeah. I think about that.
Or they do the up to the lips and they don't swallow.
I always see it.
And you're like.
Or like taking a suitcase with nothing in it. Like,
yeah.
I could tell.
It looks like you're going to like throw that over your head. It's easy. Yeah.
I can always clock stuff like that. Digging into Mel specifically, now this is one of my favorite questions to ask. Someone put it in my mind recently. I don't know if it's the way you work, but I will pose it to you anyway. She was explaining to me that when you start a new TV show, you're kind of like on unstable ground. You don't quite know who your character is, but then you have that moment where you do something in prep or on set and you're like, I have just found them. Did you have that kind of aha moment prepping to play Mel, and if so, when?
Yes, the whole first season was trying to figure it out for me. I think I felt pulled in multiple directions and like they were all possible. And I was like, oh, I don't know which one to take still. And I think having the anxiety of feeling like I don't know her helped actually, because it was like, oh, she doesn't really know herself though. So she's still trying to find it too. And once I eventually, I'm trying to remember what episode I was like, oh, there she is. It's probably little less than halfway through. I think probably by episode 9 is probably when I was like, okay, here we go. And so, yeah, it is shaky. It's always shaky. And I think the thing that the creators provided us was phenomenal. We got sat down and they gave us our whole backstory that will never make it into a script. It was just for us. It's the most active. It's so juicy. Oh my God. Yeah, any creative out there, please do that. If you can, please do that. It is beyond helpful to have this whole life we've had before, and we don't have to guess. Usually, if no one gives it to us, we start guessing, and sometimes it's wrong, and then you'll see the performance kind of go, oh no, and just like loop around. And it was so great to have that, and knowing. For most of them, it's not going to you're never going to hear about it, but it's just for us to play it. And I feel like that's also why maybe the Pit was different, where you could kind of feel everyone got it more. Mm-hmm. We didn't have much prep. It was that's got us to grab onto something more solid.
I am bursting at the seams. I have to ask this. Can you share something from that backstory that maybe we don't see or hear about directly in the show, but we can feel informing your performance?
There is one that was big for me. And big to remind me, and that is that we do find out in the dialogue that Mel's mom had passed, but her dad did too. So she was an orphan for a while in college. So doing college, doing med school, alone and taking care of her sister. And so for me, what it showed was I kind of saw how lonely it must have been of just not having time for friends, not having the ability to do that because, you're doing school and then you're home with sister and that's it. And so I think some of, not even the social awkwardness, some of the social fear that I think Mel has is just going, I've never been able to try this.
Oh, I'm going to jump to one of my little
Sure.
roadmappy questions here. I wrote this one down from episode 3. It's the conversation she has with Santos where she says to Mel, you see a family and I see every man for himself. Why do you think that Mel maybe is so quick to see family even with like that
I think
loneliness?
It's taken away from her. There's a strange phenomenon. Well, not strange or phenomenon. I don't know what I say. Anyway, there's this thing that I've noticed where children of divorce go two ways. They either don't believe in marriage at all or family, or they become the most family ever. And it's this interesting thing. So it's either they believe what happened and they're like, yeah, no one should be together ever, or they're like, I'll prove I can do it. And it's that kind of thing, I think. So the reason Mel sees family is because she doesn't have it anymore. She's got her sister, but they've been alone for a long time. And so I think the craving to create it, especially when it's not divorce, it was illness and death both times. And it's like just trying to find and make it. I think that's why anyone who showed anything to Mel, she would latch on so quickly.
You know how people feel about the Mel and Langdon relationship.
Yeah.
They're quite tied to that. In addition to that aspect that you just mentioned, is there anything specific about, I guess, like him, how he operates in the ER, but also how he teaches that made him be her person in that respect, made her drawn to him more so than anybody else?
Yeah, I think, so much of it has to do with Mel being eager to latch on. And no one, there was a lot, I mean, you saw in, was it the second episode, where she's stapling the guy's head. And then she's like, does anyone, it's like, oh, they cleared out. They keep clearing out around her. They'll leave and she'll look up and they're gone and all of this stuff. And I think Langdon is the first one who like stayed there, and it was just kind of like, and I think for so much of Mel is she's had to do everything herself for so long that just to have someone to help instead is probably like, oh my God, please help me, guide me, please. Because, especially you're a young adult, you're not ready to be self-sufficient. And if you don't have your parents at any age under like 45, it's weird and it's not normal and it's terrible.
Oh, I have so many follow-up questions. I want to stick with one particular thing I had written down from episode 12, and this goes back to some of what we were talking about where potentially maybe going big and too big, but I love how big this line is, and it's connected to Langdon because like he disappears and then he comes back in episode 12, and the way you deliver, like, you're back. I feel like I see her whole heart in that moment.
Yeah.
Did you just like nail that delivery in one take, or was it kind of trying to calibrate how big to make something like that?
Well, actually, it's more about the amount of medical things in the background. So we would have to do multiple takes because it's like, oh, the tube went wonky. And you're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And we did it a few times also because they decided racking focus is always a tricky thing. Racking, of course, being going from one focus subject to a different one that might be really far away. So just to be able to pinpoint the exact, like, perfect focus, then the next one is tough. And so it took a lot of, and not a lot of time. Nothing takes a lot in this show. It's like 5 and you're done and you're like, oh, God. But I think it was just, I mean, Mel can't not feel abandoned. And so I think having the one person who feels like an adult who can take care of her being gone and then coming back felt great. And also, he didn't ignore her. He came right over. And that kind of thing of like, oh, someone here who may not get me, but is interested to learn to understand.
What do you think she would think if she found out what he had been doing with stealing the drugs? Do you think she would be disappointed and that would sever that connection?
I think it'd be confused more than anything. I think we have such an idea of what drug addiction looks like, and it's definitely not high-functioning doctor. And so I think, if anything, it would be kind of just confusion. I don't think Mel feels disappointed in anyone, really. I don't. I think she'd feel sad for him.
That's such a beautiful quality to have.
I know. She's so much better than me.
I was just going to say, I'm going to be thinking the next time I find myself feeling disappointed, maybe I should,
if anything,
rethink.
she's probably thinking, oh, I wish I made it known you could talk to me or something like that. Yeah.
That's such a beautiful thing. I love that so much. Backtracking now, I think I'm going back to episode 2. I have to ask about the savage thing, because it's like one of the earliest moments where I'm like, Mel's the coolest and I love her. And also I feel like doing something like that is so relatable to so many people out there. So I guess the first thing I have to ask is, was that particular song scripted from the very beginning? And if so, like, why was that the perfect one for her to lean on?
I think a lot of humor comes from the unexpected. And so to go do a mantra that's not breathe, you're okay, and to have it, and also to have it done without, I mean, I had some rhythm, but I purposely couldn't do much, so that you kind of go, is that savage? Is she doing savage? Just so it's kind of throws you off and kind of gets you to go, she is not what I expected, was the hope, I think, too. I thought it was funny. It's funny. The only thing I was like, the only thing I would want to add is like something tactile at the same time. Just like really self-soothing with not just the mantra, but like something soft or like a worry stone or something. But yeah, it felt ridiculous at the time. And then watching how it ended up in the show as a whole was like, oh no, that was a perfect moment.
It is perfect. I mean, like there's like a degree of humor to it, but like I love when that kind of like that's a funny thing that like she has chosen to do, like is backed by so much weight and meaning and value to her.
Yeah.
It was making me wonder what else is on her playlist.
Oh yeah, exactly. And then it's just rain noise, and then you're like, okay, you're all over the place then. Yeah, I think self-soothing is everything, and I know everyone probably does, but there's playlists to work out or to get pumped. There's playlists to calm down. There's playlists when you're contemplative and you want to just stay in that zone. There's playlists for everything. Breakup. There's the FU breakup and then the I'm really sad breakup.
Two very different
playlists. And so I think it's just I would love to know. I haven't, because it came out of the blue for me as the actor reading it going, really? Savage. Okay. I kind of want to know what else Scott's thinking. Because I don't want to like put all of my ideas in. I kind of like tell me what else she likes. Yeah. And then I'll add to that. Yeah.
As much as I imagine it's fun to like fill in things for yourself, it's probably so just like creatively exciting to see what like someone throws in your hands and they're like, find the way to make it work and feel right.
That's where the improv training really, really helps, I think, is because some things will happen and it's not like some actors will read something and it goes against character in some way and they'll just do it anyway. And you can tell. I can tell at least. Where it's just like, yeah, that wasn't motivated by anything real. You're just regurgitating something. It's not. And so to do improv, to try and find, it's like quick thinking to find rationale in everything. And so even like dramatic improv is like just to get yourself looser and just think about, it's all about change though. Yeah.
Can you give me an example of something you saw in a script for season 1 along the way that maybe initially made you think like, that doesn't feel like her, but then when you like sat with it and worked with it that way, it wound up feeling right?
Savage. I was kind of like are we going for realism? Because realistically, neurodivergents like myself, it's not a mantra. That's not what we have something tactile. We might listen to a song on repeat and have like a pattern or a rhythm or fabrics or touching or like going through and cracking and whatever it is usually multiple things in one. Because once you occupy every part of yourself, then you can't think of the thing you're trying not to think of. So if you're hearing something else, you're seeing something else, and your hands are doing something else, then you can't think of whatever it is that's stressing you. And so I think for that was kind of, at first I was like, I don't know if this is the right move, and good for Scott for going, it's the right move. And it was just kind of like letting go and believing him too was great, to just be like, I think the thing with Mel is you should always be surprised by her, but not like, well, that doesn't make sense, but like still surprised.
The show is very good at that with every single character. Like, there's so many things that happen in the tail end that I'm like, I didn't see that coming, but...
Yeah, and I mean, the way Patrick played the character as well as the way it was written is, you know, he's this pompous who, like, why would any of us care? And for some reason, he totally cares about Mel, and he totally cares about his patients in a way that's totally not put on.
He's very good at that. That's like a lot to juggle in one character and make it all believable.
Yeah.
He does that so well.
Yeah, he does.
I'm going to jump to a question. Oh, wait. I wanted to ask this because, like, my producing brain is like, how is this possible in a safe manner? It's in episode 12. Like, you're coming around a corner and you slip on a puddle of blood. Like, is that something that, I know there's a callback to that, so I imagine it was planned. So how do you do a smaller stunt, so to speak, and make sure it's believable looking, but also done safely?
So Sweet Vicious, we were ninjas. So we studied for a month. We did parkour and martial arts, and just kind of getting into doing your own stunts and kind of knowing how to catch yourself a certain way, how to fall a certain way. The parkour really helps with that, of just like, this is a weird other example, but I hope I'll get back. But have you ever seen skateboarders fall?
I guess so.
They roll.
Huh.
They don't break things. They get they can break things, but they get really big scabs and scars. But every time you see them knowing they're going to fall, they roll. Oh. And then they teach themselves to do that.
Makes so much
it's
sense, because my instincts would be to put my hands at, and then you break the risks.
I broke this one because of that, yeah. And so once you get to know that, and that's what stunt people do, and they're the most incredible people. And we had a great relationship with our stunt team on Sweet Vicious, and I would just constantly ask everything. I'd watch in detail, just like, oh my God, I see what you did with your foot. And that one little thing you did with your foot meant you fell on your ass instead of your back. And it's stuff that you don't really know. And so they had a stunt double for me. But I do love doing my own stunts. And I was kind of like trying to think of, it was supposed to be a stunt that was not huge, but it was still a slip. And I kind of tried it a few times with the stunt coordinator that day, and he was like, do you want to just do this? And there's also a stunt woman who's fully looks like Mel and stuff, and she's like, you can do it. And so I was like, okay. And so they gave me a pad to put in my armpit. Because often when I turn corners, I'll like hold the wall or the railing or whatever it is to turn the corner. And so I was like, this is the only way it kind of makes sense to not fall down. And so, yeah, I had a pad on my armpit so that when I slipped, it would go right here on purpose, nice and like soft. And I, of course, had a huge bruise, but it was fun. It was super fun.
It looks so good.
That's
why I asked the question, because I was kind of taken aback by how real and authentic it felt.
Yeah, it was not a mistake. It was totally planned.
Oh, so good. All right, I'm going to jump to episode 15. And this is something that I'm really curious about for Mel, but I also loved how the show was structured like this for a bunch of different characters. So we get the mass casualty event, and I feel like story structure with the way TV has formulated my brain, I would expect that to kind of be the big finish, but that's not. We get a couple more cases for a variety of the characters, and you get the Spinal Tap moment. Why do you think that wound up being the best, I guess, season-ending button for Mel, the best thing for us to kind of say goodbye to her for this season, but tee her up for what she's going to be able to accomplish in season 2?
Yeah, I think I also thought it was a smart and brave choice to not finish with the big casualty, because they wanted to show that they still have to do their job. The biggest thing can happen for emergency room workers, and it could be unbelievably devastating, but someone's coming through the door next. And it's something that I think and I hope a lot of people who know healthcare workers could kind of see how extremely difficult their friends, family members, whatever job is, in that you don't get a break. And so I loved that choice. And then for Mel with the Spinal Tap, I think it's just starting so nervous. And even though she is a skilled doctor, she's still scared of making mistakes. And so anytime it was like awkward and stuff, it was always, she knew how to do it all. I asked the writers and stuff, I'm like, she knows how to do it. She's just anxious. And they're like, yeah. So I was like, okay, cool. And so to have all that, and then by the end, by seeing, I think the big turning point to get to the Spinal Tap was donating her own blood. I think that was the biggest thing, was like, you're breaking a big rule. And to me, it was like, oh, the switch of patient comes first happened. It's like, it's okay if you mess up, you're trying. But try not to. And so I think by the time it was all over and we saved the lives we saved, and even though Yellow Zone was not crazy emergencies, we had 2 life-threatenings that we had to deal with in Yellow Zone, which weren't supposed to come to Yellow. And so to have the inguinal, 3. We had 3. Because it was
the head.
It was that and the car crash when she got hit and all the internal bleeding. Mm-hmm. So we weren't supposed to have any, and we ended up with 3. And me, Mel, being in charge of that whole unit was like, okay, there's 3 that we would need an attending for all 3 of these, and we did it ourselves. As the highest rank would be an R2, and then intern, med student, and nurses, and it's just ridiculous. And I think by the time that happened, and it's like all 3 we got up to surgery, it's just kind of like this confidence in trusting that you're going to do what you need to do when the time comes. And so I think getting to do the Spinal Tap was also the first time she ever was tricky about anything, probably ever. And when you're a doctor, you do know what's necessary and stuff, and to have people fight against it, which happens constantly, especially nowadays, is tough. And so, yeah, I think without the mass casualty, but even before then, without all of the little victories, she would have been a different story.
Looking ahead a little now, and also kind of going back to what we were talking about before, how you get to discover new things about a character every single step of the way. You've just started filming season 2. Is there any particular scene from season 1 that you find weighing on your mind most when playing her in the new season?
We just started though, so I've only filmed 2 days so far of episode 1. So I'm kind of like, and we just have 1 and we just got 2, so I'm not. I really don't know.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think. Yeah, I can't really tell yet.
Okay, I have 2 other ways I can get into season 2. I'm going to go back a little.
We don't know anything, by the way.
I had a feeling.
Really don't tell us.
The way that they give you scripts, my over-prepared brain can't compute how you all do that.
Actors want to be over-prepared. Mm-hmm. That is what we want. I mean, if you do a show, you not only know the play backwards and forwards, same with movies, but you can also you could talk about the playwright's favorite dog and the cafe they would go to. Like, you're so researched that you can't slip too far away. And there's something that's just absolutely terrifying about not knowing, especially because it's one day. So we don't even know what the next hour is.
That's wild to
which
me.
I would love to get to even like a 3-sentence synopsis of each episode, just so you know where your character, like the trajectory. I don't need the details. I just need to know. Let's see. In 8, we can say that Mel's confidence that she was building kind of crashes as everyone else is dealing with a trauma that affects everyone. Like, and then you're like, we know what that means now, but at least something. I don't know. It's tough.
After having gone through all of that with season 1 and maybe it not being like your style of choice when approaching your work, is there anything you've kind of learned from that you are planning to apply to season 2 to make that more manageable for yourself?
It's asking questions. It's asking more questions. Noah, I heard Noah's writing 4 of the 15 episodes and directing 1 this season, which I just cannot understand how you can do that many things.
I don't understand how that works either, but I'm excited about it.
Absolutely insane. And so getting to, he doesn't reveal a lot, but sometimes you can be like, I have a character. I pitched him a character idea for season 1. I was like, would this work? You knowing what happens? And he's like, that would work well. And so it's like, okay, thank God.
What was that?
It was telling him about how in ADHD we have hyperfocus superpower with emergencies. And I was like, no, we knew there was going to be some mass event. That's all we knew. And I was like, it'd be really great to see her, gaining some confidence, but mainly the switch in her brain as the emergency comes and randomly she's able to just do things better than she was before. And it's just like the ADHD emergency thing that we're overrepresented in all emergency departments, so fire, police, and emergency departments. We have an over the normal population percentage. That was terrible.
I understood.
Yeah, thank you. In those places, we're more represented. And so it is this real thing that we can switch into. And I was just kind of explaining that to him. And he kind of had a little smile on his face. He goes, that'd work really well. And I went, really? And he goes, yeah, that'd work really, really well. And I was like, okay, thank God.
I like hearing that in such a high-pressure and fast-working environment, there's still the opportunity to stop and hear people out and collaborate and get ideas.
I guess the thing is, with season 1, I wanted to know the information so I could make my own decision. But in season 2, I think I'm going to be like, I have an idea to play it this way eventually. Is this going to work? So that at least I have someone to kind of like, you might want to try this way. Something. Yeah, it's tough.
I'm looking forward to having another conversation after season 2 and be like, tell me all the ideas you came up with that I'm going to see in the finished product. Here's one season 2 question that I will admit is probably a little more theory because you don't really know much about what's to come. But we highlighted the fact that she had an especially close relationship with Langdon in season 1. If you could see her have more scenes with anyone else in the main ensemble, who do you think she would have the most to gain from at this point?
It's a good question. I think Robbie, probably. Mel needs to relax more. And not even relax, but just, it's okay to advocate for your patients even if it doesn't follow the rules. So maybe a little Santos then too. I do think they're hilarious together, Santos and Mel, because it's just, they're so opposing.
So opposite.
But it's still Mel, so she loves everyone at all times.
That quality in her. Here's just one thing that you might not be able to answer because you don't know, or also maybe you're not allowed.
Don't know.
Are we going to get more opportunities to see Mel and Becca together? Because I really loved that we got that ending. I want to experience more of their world together. I understand the show is set in a certain place, but that connection, it feels like there's so much like beauty to explore and mine.
Yeah, I mean, I love working with Tal. She's great. And we had a lot of fun. She's good at improv too. So we ended up with the walking scene. Both of us had some improvs there's one that just, I tried so hard to keep a straight face because it was the funniest thing that she came up with. The scene extended longer than was shown. And we eventually get to around our car and she's like, I'm so excited now, race you. And then she starts sprinting. And I go, Becca, that's not our car. And she goes, which one's ours? Like that. It was the funniest improv. And it was just like, I understand. It was too long. I understand why. But it was just hilarious and so in our characters. It was so fun. I wish I can say without lying, I have no idea.
I know.
Not a clue. But I hope so. At least, even the brief FaceTime we had was nice. And it's also, I think it's good to remind yourself while watching like Mel's circumstances a little bit. Where it's not like she's just nervous for no reason. It's like she's got a ton to do at all times.
She's responsible for a lot.
And when I read, only until the end, reading 15, did I realize that the facility she was in is daytime only. I did not know that until the end. I'm like, oh, that changes how I would feel. Mm-hmm. And so, wish I knew that earlier. But it's also like, okay, cool. Because I thought it was like, oh, it's okay if I don't pick you up tonight or whatever it is. And it was like, oh, no, it's not. No, you live with me. Got it.
Oh, this show is so good at just like keeping the focus on one specific place and a specific set of events, but also making sure all the characters feel full and you feel the weight of their life beyond the hospital.
Yeah. And I think
something else.
I think that's a huge part. That's the point. I know a lot of people were complaining that it's not Pittsburgh enough, but it's like, when would they leave? When would you see Pittsburgh? You only saw it with him coming in and the roof. And that's it. Because when would they leave? They're kind of there all day.
Yeah.
And I know also a lot of people don't understand that when you're a teaching hospital, the doctors are from usually not there. They're from everywhere else. They get assigned hospitals. They put in their preferences and then they get assigned. So it's like none of us would be from Pittsburgh anyway.
I feel like I watch a million TikTok videos of people revealing where they were assigned to work.
Yeah, exactly.
I quite like those. We have had the last question of Collider Ladies Night. Every single one ends with this particular question, and I love it. In this industry, we give each other awards, and I think that is absolutely wonderful. We should keep on doing that, but I find that nobody tells themselves good job as much as they should. So I want to know something you accomplished making the Pitt Season 1 that you know you will always look back on and say, you know what? I am really proud of what I did there.
I think I had a lot of improvs they kept. And I loved that I was, in the moment at least, able to find something not scripted that still fit. Because with me, I'm expecting most of it to be cut. That's what I do. I come up with stuff all the time, and it's usually like either tone it down or they just snip it because it's at the end or whatever it is. And to see some of them make it in the trailer was like, it just felt like, okay, I think I got her then. Because if all of them are cut, then it's like, okay, I don't really get her then. Yeah.
What a good form of validation there. I as a viewer who loves this show, like, I could just feel that you all get your character so well. I mean, I'm sure you're hearing this a lot, but like the show is great and like truly one of the very best ensembles on television right now. I really just like can't compute how you all do this. You all came together so well, and I love the fact that I could feel what Mel sees in that space. Like I see a family, and as a viewer, it's a screen family that I want to spend more time with. So I'm so excited for season 2. I'm going to say congrats on everything you've accomplished on the Pitt Season 1, everything coming your way in the future. Could have gone on and on. That means you have to come back to the studio
soon. Okay, sure. Why not?
Anytime you want.
That'd be great.